Okay, here we go. Welcome, Malehasa. Joins me for the first time on this podcast. We're going to have a really powerful conversation. I can already tell. We've already started chatting before we began. I think that we're going to go deep into purpose in particular today. What that means for the both of us. And I was saying just before we began, well, we connected this year, myself and Malehasa, on LinkedIn, and it's been beautiful following each other's journey. I think certainly following your journey, Malehasa, because we're both focused very much on purpose. Slightly different aspects of purpose, I would say, that we talk about, but I just felt like we'd have a great conversation connecting today. And in particular, what I really want to go in today, first of all, your unique view of purpose and your unique journey, which we'll go into, but also how you've built this business with all of the other commitments that you have. We talk, I know you've got a family, quite a large family, and yet you built this business around your own purpose, and now you're helping others do the same. So for those that aren't aware of Malehasa, you're based in Lesotho. I got that right, which
Yes,
is a
that's me.
country within South Africa, and you've got a very unique story around purpose yourself. So before I go any further, you're obviously a purpose-driven coach yourself, helping people in this area building their own purpose-driven businesses. And let's go into your journey a little bit first. So, in terms of your journey to what you do today, Malehasa, in terms of coaching, what brought you here? What was your experience in the past that helped you define your own purpose and help you serve others in the way that you do today? Wherever you'd like to start that journey.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna start it way, way back. Because for me, it's been a journey of years of discovering who I am, what I'm good at, what I'm called to do, and what the world really needs from me. It did not come in a year. It didn't come in, say, 2, 3 years. No, it actually started a long time ago. Let me start with the very first business that I started, which was a network marketing business where I worked with my family, my brother and my sister. We worked very closely. I was still in school at the time, and that was the first time I was exposed to mainly coaching and speaking. And it took me maybe a year or two in the environment to actually realize, hey, look, I like this. I like this speaking thing. And after, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years of doing that, I started asking questions. Not because I wanted to, but internally, I had a dissatisfaction. And with the Christian background I have, I knew that the Holy Spirit was pricking my heart with those questions to lead me in a new direction. And so one of the questions I was asking was, am I really, because, for your listeners, some of them may not know what network marketing is. It's simply where you market a particular product or service, but most of them are mainly product based businesses. And you have a manufacturer who produces those products, and then they have this huge team of people who go out and market those products, and then we just build teams of people who market the same products. Yeah, I don't think I want to go deeper than that. Otherwise I'll digress. So basically, your job as a network marketer is to find people who are interested in the product that you're selling so they can become a part of your team and we sell the same product, and find more people who can do the same thing. And then I started asking, am I really helping people do what they're called to do in life? And the answer that I came up with was not pleasing at all, which was, no, I'm not. I'm just helping them find a business opportunity that can help them make money. But this is regardless of what they're good at, what they are called to do, what their personal assignment in life is. And that's really what I think got me started on this whole journey of purpose. At the time, I didn't know it would get to where it is today. So I took time to wait on God in prayer. And I think I took probably 2 or 3 days of fasting. And I prayed and asked God, I just at that point really wanted to know, Lord, what is your plan for my life? Am I even on the right plan? Because I know that this network marketing thing that I'm doing, it's great, it's fun. Like it was a lot of fun. But I just don't feel that sense of fulfillment. There's something missing. And I want to do work that I know that you have called me to do. So, what have you called me to do? And in that 3 days of fasting, the Lord said to me, he put it in the first person. He said, I speak, I teach, and multitudes listen because I have the authority. And on that day, my destiny was defined. I knew exactly what I was called to do. I was not just called into business, I was called specifically to speak and to teach. And at that time, with the network marketing background, I was actually very excited. I thought, yay, I'm going to be the number one motivational speaker in the world. I've always been a big thinker. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go the motivational route. I already had the platform with network marketing. Was also, no, this was before. A little later after that, I had doors open up for me in business consultancy. And one of the things that we worked on, my husband and I at the time, was we trained companies. We helped them grow their market share. We helped them with retaining their employees, keeping their employees motivated. So one of the things we did was team building. And this is where I think for the first time really practiced their teaching and the speaking. And every time when I came off stage, the people were like, who are you? Like, where do you come from? Like, where have you been? And I was very young at the time. And I was training people who are way, way older. But whatever it is that I said to them made more sense than they would expect from someone my age. And that's the first time I really saw firsthand that, hey, look, I'm gifted at the speaking thing. Like, this is it for me. Because I had no prior training, except this passion in my heart that if you gave me a microphone, like if you gave me a crowd, I just had something to say that was powerful, and everyone would attest, like, wow, I never thought of it like that before. And so I thought, okay, so we're going to go motivation. We're going to go the motivation route, team building. We were making very good money. We were working with the government. We were working with private companies. And we started getting a lot of referrals because everybody was happy with our service. And then there was that question from within me again, like, is this really it? In as much as I could see that we were impacting people's lives and everybody who left our workshops was like on top of the world, when I met our clients 6 months down the line, a year down the line, like, hey, you remember me? Oh, they all remembered me. I probably didn't remember some of them because they always came in a crowd. Like, I met you in such and such a training. Like, oh, yes, you were with that company. Yes. Okay, so how are things going? Oh, well, work. It's just work. So basically what I realized was people would leave us on high and they would feel they could conquer anything. But it didn't take long for them to just go back to the same mindset issues they had before. And that bothered me because what would really give me fulfillment was to meet a former client of mine a year or two down the line and they tell me, you know what, since I met you, since I worked with you, my life has never been the same again. That's what my spirit longed for. I could not explain why. It was not okay with them just being high, like having a good time in one weekend and they're okay for like 2 months or whatever. And then they just go back. I didn't know. I was not satisfied with that, but I just wasn't satisfied. So I went back to pray, said, God, I'm doing this speaking thing. And these are the results I'm getting. So I want to ask you, up until this point, I really don't know for sure what your message is for me, because I believe that if God sent me to speak and to teach, He sent so many other people too. I'm not the only one who was sent. I believe that he had a unique message for me. And I believe that was the message that would make my unique impact in the world. So I said, what's my message, God? And I got an answer. And God said, purpose. He said, I've called you to teach my people how to discover and fulfill their purpose in life. And I thought, wow, that is powerful. I got excited again. And so now that narrowed down my topics and training. I no longer focused on just getting people motivated. I now taught the pursuit of excellence and purpose in your work and in your life. But I was still talking to employees. I was still talking to people who could only apply what I was teaching to a limited extent because, I mean, when you're employed, there's only so much you can do. And there were times when doubt would creep in, but every time, probably 2, 3 times, every time I'll go back to God and pray and ask, what is my message? It's a purpose. So I got so convinced with that message that I actually made an image. I wrote it down, typed it out, and made an image of that and put it as my laptop and tablet background because I was so bound to the message. And over the years, I've become so bound to the message that when you say purpose, I feel like you say my name. That's how bonded I have become with that message. Okay, so that's basically my story with purpose. I think with time we'll get into how, unless you want me to get into that now, how I now moved from what I did with purpose with companies in my country to what I'm doing now in the online space, because that's another shift altogether.
Wow, what a story. I can tell that you had that gift for speaking, number one. I mean, I can imagine you're extremely powerful talking on stage, and that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I want to go deeper into this in terms of the people that might be watching this now, and they might be unsure of what their gifts might be. But what you have, which I don't hear very often, is you have that I would say connection to intuition, or you might say it's a spiritual connection that you have with God. I would, you can use that word, whatever feels right for the person, but it's essentially that connection to our deeper inner self, you could say, that part of ourself that has the answers, which I'm always directing people back to, which in my programs is something that I help people develop. You seem like you've naturally got that connection. So you can ask the question, where should I be? What do I need to work on? This is something that I've honed over the years with the inner work, meditation, healing, etc. So I developed that gift where I can ask the questions internally. When people come to me, often we've lost. I think we've all got that, but we can kind of lose it along the way as we go through life. And the reason why I think we lose it is because we're so lost in our intellect. So we're just kind of lost in our thoughts a lot of the time. So we've lost that deeper connection to who we really are. And so that's a connection that I help people rebuild, because most people have lost that. If they've been working in decades in corporate, I find that they just, purpose is something that's got lost along the way. They've lost their connection to their passions, their gifts, and they've just been living on this one track, basically, of what I call intellect. So there's a lot we can discuss off the back of your story, but I really want to talk about for you in terms of why people lose that connection to purpose. Like, because I believe we've got it when we're growing up as children, but we lose it along the way. Why do you think we lose that connection to purpose through our lives? And how can we reconnect again?
Okay, so I believe the reason why we lose it is, number one, because we don't know just how valuable it is, because we are trained to value the intellect, the intellectual part of our being through school. And there's hardly anyone, for most people, who's training their spiritual side of their being,
Mm.
which, in my opinion, is the most powerful side.
Great.
So, having been trained to pay attention to what the mind says, what the mind can figure out, what the mind can connect, we actually, without realizing it, we are constantly suppressing that intuition
Mm.
that you talked about, because most of the time it's just unreasonable. It makes no sense. It speaks contrary to what the mind tells you makes sense. It speaks contrary to what your eyes tell you is the right way to go. So, having been trained to reason things out, we just automatically assume, hey, it's just me. Maybe this idea is not so good. You have that feeling inside that this looks good, but, and because you were trained to focus fully on what you can calculate with your mind, that but, you tend to ignore it. You think, oh, well, it's just me. No big deal.
Mm.
Until maybe it's an investment you're making. Until you invest, and a few years down the line, you lose your money and you're like, I knew it from the beginning.
Mm.
This was a bad idea. And you realize I should have listened to that voice, but because nobody taught you how to appreciate that voice, you just took it for granted. So I
Mm.
think a lot of it, many of us don't value that inner voice because we have no training for it. And
Mm.
it is not as exalted as the mind is. I think that's mainly why, which actually is the reason why most of us choose the careers that we choose. We choose the work that we do based on what we are good at, what our minds can figure out, not necessarily what you're naturally gifted at. I've met very few people in life who choose careers based on their natural giftings. A lot of
Sure.
people just choose careers based on what they are mentally, intellectually good at, and what will give them good money,
Mm.
um, for the skill that they have, but not necessarily what they're naturally gifted at. So I think that's where most of us lose it, and then from there, it's just downhill. I think for most of us, because once you grew up in a background that does not appreciate the spiritual side of you, you also in turn tend to minimize it for the rest of your life, and then it doesn't die. It's always there. Like I said, it's the most powerful part of you. It's always there. It's always bothering you, but you've trained yourself to keep it quiet, to ignore it, because my mind tells me this is the way to go. And if you're really good at what you do, figuring it out with your mind, that empowers your view even more. That what you can figure out with your mind, that's it. That's the real thing you should push for, you should pursue. Because hey, look, I'm getting results with this. But you don't know what you're missing by ignoring
Mm.
that spiritual side of you that just knows what you would excel at way beyond your wildest dreams. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
as the next,
amazing. That's amazing because I mean, people who watch this podcast regularly will be saying what I'm thinking at the moment, which is this is what I talk about every week, pretty much, because this is my journey as well. It's a journey into advertising. I mean, I was always very creative. I loved art, but I made a choice based on a certain set of subjects that were available in school to go toward design and advertising because that was where I could earn a living from. Even though it wasn't necessarily what I was 100% passionate about, there were certain options on the table. And I imagine it's the same there in African culture as well as it is in the UK, which is basically nobody talks around about intuition. Nobody talks about awareness. Nobody talks about spirituality. None of that is on the table basically in our schooling system. And my parents were particularly educated in this area of life either. And so it was very much, okay, I guess I better just go towards where the money is. I'm passionate about art, but there's no real money in that direction. So I'm going to go towards advertising. And this for me is where so many professionals end up. For me, it was like midlife going, hang on a second, I'm working in a way I'm not enjoying anything about my work, but
yes.
I'm earning well. I look successful on the outside, but I'm not fulfilled at all by what I'm doing. And eventually it took me down a path where my mental health started to really suffer, and I had to make a choice towards doing something different because I couldn't carry on that direction anymore. But there's this real power, I always say, in that place where you get to where you might have a burnout or a breakdown, for example, because most people go through their lives feeling unfulfilled or unsatisfied, not happy with the work they're doing. But because it doesn't get too bad to the point where they burn out or they break down, they will continue living their life in the same, working in the same way until retirement, and then get to the end of life and realize that, I wasted my potential. Basically, I never really went any deeper. So there's real power in hitting that point of burnout or breakdown. But it doesn't sound like you quite hit that kind of wall. I'm guessing maybe that's because in your culture there was more of a focus on Christianity and religion. So maybe you didn't have to have that big, blowout to start realigning with purpose. It sounds like maybe it was still a part of your culture. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I have a strong Christian background. Um, my mom was not officially a pastor, but I come from the very, 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 very rural part of the country. So rural
Mm.
that, Mark, you cannot get to my home with a car.
Right.
Like,
No
you'd have
roads.
to park your car across the river and then go on a tiny boat across the river and then climb a mountain, walking now. You'd have to hike up that mountain, then you'd get to my parents'
Mm.
house. So that's how rural we were. So in that part of the country, they couldn't really send trained pastors or prophets or whatever because the population was just too small. And it was just not, it didn't make sense financially, I guess, for the church.
Mm.
So they would find volunteers like from anyone around the village who'd be willing to steward the people there. And my mom sort of filled that role. So my mom was a teacher in the church, but she was never ordained. So I grew up in the church. That's where my relationship with God really began. It began with me seeing my mom teach the Bible, and I had the Bible stories first from her. And for me, God was always a part of my life, the
Mm.
authority in my life that I looked up to at every stage of life. So I cannot really tell at which point in my life I realized that everything that I do I attribute to him. Oh, actually, I know, it just came to me now when my mom passed. It was the first time I
Mm.
realized, hey, I'm actually doing everything to please my mom. And when my mom passed, I was like, why am I working hard for? It's funny how you don't
Yes.
realize how valuable people are until they pass. At this point in my life, I was actually studying in India, and I think 2 or 3 weeks after I started my study there in India, my mom passed, and that hit me really hard. I had to sit and ask myself some real questions. What am I living for when I go back home? I still had the rest of my family, but I felt like, what am I going back home to? Who am I going back home to? And for the first time, I realized that I was doing everything for my mother's praise. And
Mhm.
that was the first time I saw it, first time I acknowledged it. And I said, God, now my mom's gone. You took my mom, but you left me here. So you must still have a purpose for me to be here. Because otherwise you would have taken me with her, because I feel like my life is pointless without me. I'm the youngest of six, so I was very attached to my mother. And at that time, I think my relationship with God grew to another level, because from that time on, I said, you know what, God, if you took my mom and you let me stay, then you clearly have a purpose for my life. And I want you to know that now that I can't live for my mom anymore because she's not here, now my life is all about you. I live for you and what you want. And I remember at that time, I changed all my passwords everywhere to for Jesus only. That was my new password for everything. That how I cemented my commitment to God at that
Right.
time. And that really grew me spiritually and also grew my sensitivity. Um, and yeah, but also in addition to that, it's just the spiritual Christian training that I had all my life. I've always been in church, always. So I've been trained how to listen to the Holy Spirit, how to respect the authority of God, how to understand and appreciate that God has a plan for my life. I'm not just here to fill up space. I appreciate that. I'm here because the world needs me. I'm here because God decided, you know what? Of all the 8 billion people I have on earth, my world is not complete unless you're a part of it. And that is true for every one of us. We are here because without you, believe it or not, because most of us think we're so insignificant. Without you, the world is
Yes.
not complete. Otherwise, you would not be
Wow.
here. Nobody is here to just fill up space. Nobody's here because, well, your family did not have any children. So God decided, oh, well, let me just show them mercy and give them a boy. No, you're actually here because there are, I believe this with all my heart, there are problems in the world that only you can solve.
Right.
That's why you were sent. There are people in the world that only you can touch in a special way that can transform their lives. That's why you were sent. Otherwise, you have no business here.
I love that. I love that. I'm just thinking about someone watching. Now, we're talking about the religious side of purpose, the spiritual side of purpose, but perhaps people are watching this now who maybe haven't had that religious upbringing or aren't particularly spiritually not advanced, but kind of haven't had that call to spirituality. What we're talking about here, when we talk about God or spirit or any of those terms you want to use, religious terms, what we're basically talking about is a connection to your deeper self. So even if we remove the religious framework, and they're all beautiful paths on their own, we all have a connection to what you could call our eternal self, our deeper self. And that's what we're talking about here. There's a part within us that has the answers, that knows the path that's best for us, that can help us to live truly fulfilling and abundant lives. And it's just about really reconnecting with that. Now, whether you use that term higher self or God or spirit or whatever word resonates for you, doesn't matter too much. It's just about, okay, how can you reconnect again with your true self? What I like there was you talked about, you're essentially living for did you say your mother's approval, basically? And I think so many of us do that. In fact, the number one regret people have at the end of their lives, which I'm always talking about on social media, which is I wish I'd lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So most human beings are living a life that's not true to themselves. They're living a life either to please their parents or to please their peer group or society or whatever it might be. We're living someone else's definition of success. And we know there's stories of so many different people who've reached the pinnacle of external success and, thought that was going to bring them happiness and realized that, oh, actually, I still feel empty, even though I've got all the money. I've got the house, I've got the car, I've got the massive business, whatever it might be, and I still feel unfulfilled. So what we're talking about here is getting back in touch with your true self. And for me, that self connects more in the way of feelings than thoughts. So the way I would describe it to people is following your passion or following your excitement, following that thing that lights you up inside over the intellect is great, but what the intellect is going to essentially veer you towards what is safe. It's interested in survival. It's interested in maintaining the status quo. So it's interested in things like, okay, where's the money? For example, it associates money with safety and survival, which is true to an extent, but it's not interested in things like passion, which is what we're talking about here, getting back in touch with our true self, which wants you to experience passion, fulfillment, abundance, these things over survival and safety. But that's quite difficult for the mind, the intellect, which is the challenge in itself, because we've identified with the intellect so much, it's very difficult to then trust something other than our thought process. So that potentially is the journey for me when we talk about purpose. But let's go towards more the practical side of purpose then, because we talked about the spiritual side, which is very deep in itself. So I'm just thinking about somebody listening to this now who's thinking, okay, I'd love to. This sounds great. I'd love to explore my purpose. I'd love to experience more fulfillment, energy, and impact in my work. Where can they start then if they're in a corporate career now and they've kind of they don't even know where to start? They don't even know what their gifts are. They've lost touch with their passion. How would you help that person then to sort of reconnect with purpose and experience fulfillment in their work, their business or their career, whatever it might be?
Okay. So, first of all, I'd say sit down, take a deep breath. Most people don't do that. They are always on the move. There's always the new goal to achieve. There's deadlines from the boss. There's demands from the family. And most people never really pause and wonder, does any of this really make sense for me? Because when it's all been said and done, you want to look back at your life and say, hey, I made an impact. So pause and ask yourself what success looks like to you. Looks like, feels like. Not how the world defines it, but how you would define it. That is very important because that gives you something to work towards. That tells you what things you've been carrying that are not necessary in your journey, what things you've been focusing your time and energy on that are not really helping you. But if you don't know for sure what you're working towards, what success really means to you, you just see yourself going through all these activities day in, day out. And undeniably, you're always exhausted because that inner child in you is still longing to rise and become a star. Okay. So for me, it would start with, what does success look like for you? After you define that, now I want you to ask yourself, okay, what am I good at? What is that one thing that people always come to you for help with? And for you, it comes naturally. For me, that is speaking. And a lot of people, if you invite them to speak, my goodness, you might as well chop their head off because a lot of people have stage fright. I don't, and I cannot tell you why. For me, that's like, yay, when are we talking? you know, so everybody has that. You have that one thing that you don't wait for an invitation. It's just in you. It's like there's a burning fire in your belly that's always burning. And this thing is just looking for expression. And we already talked about how the mind suppresses that part. So sit down and pause and ask yourself, what is that thing? What is that thing that everyone always says, gee, you're good at that? And you're like, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. Because many of us think that the things that we're good at, we think it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it isn't special.
We think it comes naturally to everybody else because it comes naturally to you. You don't realize, hey, that's your zone of genius. There are a lot of people in the world who are struggling with that. And if you could show up and tell them, hey, this is how you would solve this problem. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the steps. And these things come naturally to you. That's really your gift. You know, most people, when we hear of your gift and what you gifted in, your calling, we tend to spiritualize it too much, I think. It's just really sitting down to acknowledge what comes to you naturally. What are you good at? Now, I've realized since I've started my work that I'm doing now, coaching people how to make money through their gifts, I realized that, hey, a lot of people don't know how to make money with their gift because they have no training. They've been trained to do what they can do with their skill, what they've intellectually developed. So I've had to marry the two, your gift and your skill.
Yes.
So having identified what your gift is, what you're passionate about, for me, I set that as the foundation. Because once you do work that naturally lights you up, the money will follow. When hardships come, you will not quit because this thing in you will not be satisfied until you make impact. It doesn't matter how long it takes. But if you're only doing it for the money, it's very easy to quit. It's very
Yes.
easy to get dissatisfied and think, oh, well, let me go try something else. So if you set your gift as the basis and then you look at your skill set, what am I good at? Some people have actually developed their skill depending on the opportunities you've had in life. Some people have actually developed their gift to the point where it's actually a skill that they can monetize, but not many people have that. So if all you have is your corporate background, whatever it is that you're doing in your work, well and good. I'm not going to tell you to abandon that. That's probably 10, 20 years of your life. Fine tuning and skill. That skill should profit you somehow in future. So what I teach is how do you marry the two? How do you take your skill and your gift and then set that as the foundation for your purpose aligned business? How do you take what you're naturally gifted in and then combine it with what you're really good at professionally to create a solid base for your business? Let me make an example of myself. I think that will solidify it for our listeners here. Like I said, am naturally gifted in speaking and teaching. Mm-hmm. But I have no formal training in that. What I actually have experience in professionally is business consultancy. And I cannot say that's my calling. It's just a skill that I developed and I became so very good at it and I had results with it. So what I did was I learned, and it took me years to figure this out. I took my gift of teaching and speaking and married that to my experience of helping people grow their businesses and pursue purpose and pursue excellence. And I realized, hey, I could actually take my skill of consulting and my gift of teaching and set that as a foundation for the online business that I'm running now, where I teach people how to start their purpose-aligned online businesses. Because when I started, I met absolutely nobody who was teaching this. I wish I had someone like me who would guide me, because I spent literally 3 years running around the internet, trying this and that, every other popular trend that I could come across, because I was desperate to make money from home. But nobody was talking about how I could make money with a skill I already had. And when I figured that out, I was like, yay, this is what I've been looking for, So the business that was birthed out of this discovery for me was a coaching business where I now help people transfer the skill they already have and back that up with their gift and what they're naturally good at, naturally passionate with, and build a solid business that not only gives them money, and this is a very, very big part, not only gives them money, but give them that solid fulfillment in life where you feel, I am making an impact. And this whole thing is really worth it, not just for the money, but for the transformation I see myself making in the lives of my clients. And of course, their families too.
Amazing. Yeah, it's an incredible time we live in. And I don't think many people are, we hear so much negativity about the times we live in, don't we? Oh, there's so much wrong in the world, so many problems. But if you look at it from an entrepreneurship perspective, there's never been a better time than this. It's incredible, the opportunity that's available. You build a business in the past, you would need a lot of capital to get going. You'd have to build a bricks and mortar business. You'd need land, you need buildings, etc. Right now, I know several people who have built a successful business with nothing but a social media profile and a calendar link, and that's it. That is their business. Social media profile, they post regularly, and they've got a link to book a call with them, and that is it. That's their business, and they built a six-figure business from that. So there's an incredible opportunity here. And I'm interested in your thoughts about this, but I mean, not everybody's called to that journey of entrepreneurship. I don't think necessarily everybody's right for that path, but for those that are, there's an incredible opportunity. All you need is to just share your thoughts, your perspective on a particular subject, and then give an option for somebody to work with you, basically. I mean, it can just literally be a call, and then you build a coaching program off the back of it, which is another step in itself. But initially, you just need to share your thoughts and experience online. What I like there is what you talked about is this kind of Venn diagram, isn't it? The classic Venn diagram that we see a lot, which can really help people with this journey towards purpose. You could say passion or gifts, the skill set, which is your whatever you built in your career, your journey in corporate is still very valid. It's not like you throw that out. That's a really important part. Like you said, the speaking side is you could say your skill. The building the business side is perhaps the gift. No, the passion is the speaking, isn't it? Yes. The other way around. Yeah. But then you've also got to think about, there's two other aspects I think about, which is what is the problem? What is the pain point that you're solving? If we're talking about purely business creation here. So you need the passion, you need a problem that you're solving, and then you need the profit aspect as well, which is, okay, if you're building a business, it's important to consider what you can earn the money from. The mistake I made in the past was, okay, I'm focusing on my passion, which is spirituality, meditation, healing, etc. And then not necessarily focusing on getting clear on the person that I was going to help. I just thought I could help everybody, So this ideal client piece is really important. Well, if you're called towards entrepreneurship, building a business, that ideal client needs to be someone that's got a particular pain point that you can solve and is able and willing to invest in the solution. Because what I found in the past is I would try and help people. They had no means of paying for it. They weren't able to invest in themselves. You've got to make sure that the ideal client is somebody that can actually be willing and able to invest in themselves as well. So there is this Venn diagram, if you like, of passion, skills, the problem you want to solve, and then the value you can earn from that. So there's kind of four aspects. So you don't want to go too far in either one direction. So if you go too much in the way of passion, then maybe that you wouldn't be able to earn a living from it. You go too often to the way of skill, then that's essentially a career, isn't it? Where you wouldn't necessarily be fulfilled by it. Likewise, if you're, like you said earlier, which I really like, if you're only thinking about the financial side, again, you can miss out on the fulfillment as well. Because I'm the same as you, where I went down the trend route initially, affiliate marketing. This looks a great way to earn money. Working from home gives you fun, freedom, and flexibility. I made no money from it whatsoever because it wasn't tied to purpose. It didn't harness my story, my unique gifts, what makes me really stand out and as unique as a coach, like I do now, because I was just literally selling this product as a load of other people were doing the same things. I wasn't standing out at all. I had no link to my story, so I wasn't able to connect on an emotional level with people. So there is these different aspects of purpose that we need to bring together and find that sweet spot in the middle there. And everyone's got that. Everyone's got that unique thing that will enable them to stand out. And when you find it, the really cool thing is that you've got no competition then, because nobody has got your unique story. Nobody's got your unique mix of the story, the passion, the skills, and that can solve the particular problem that you've solved in your life and then provides that particular value. So that's the amazing thing about purpose, is that you are in a category of one. And there's only one of you, so there's no competition. Essentially, the people that are destined to work with you will only be drawn to you because they'll be uniquely drawn to your energy. The other aspect of that is really important is in this AI saturated marketplace where everyone's churning out AI generated content. If somebody is communicating from values and passion and the unique story, purpose, essentially all in one, you can stand out and emotionally engage and connect with people in a way that most coaches aren't able to because they're churning out this AI generated, content the whole time. So interested in your perspective on that as well, like in terms of this kind of AI generated marketplace that we're stepping into. Have you experienced the same in the way that you can tell that stuff a mile off, and you can tell the people that have done this deeper work around purpose and their story as well, able to share the link back to the story, which I find really powerful?
I read a book called The Millionaire Messenger. As you're speaking, I'm busy trying to recall the author's name. I don't know if it's Brandon Return or something. Not sure. But the title is The
I'll have a look.
Millionaire Messenger. And he essentially talks about how everyone has a story to share. And that story, if you have the business structure to support your story and to share your story with the world, that could really translate into $1 million business. That
Mm.
was his experience. That's what he teaches. And that's what many people are experiencing in the world today. And there are many people who try to come into the online business world, much like you and I, how we started,
Trends.
who were who are just in it for the money. Like, show me where the money is,
Yeah.
and I'm in.
Get rich quick. Yeah.
Get rich quick, like I'm here for the
Mm.
money. And it was hard before AI to make money that way because, like you said,
Mm.
you just don't stand out. You're competing with thousands of other people because you're offering exactly the same thing. But now
Yeah.
with AI, the competition has gone through the roof
Yeah.
because you just sound like everybody else. And what people really connect to is your story because your story tells us the challenges that you've overcome. Your story
Mm.
tells us how your offer, which is essentially what your business sells, what problem you help people solve, how it was birthed. How did you come about it? Your story tells me as a potential buyer that, hey, I can trust Mark because he has
Mm.
experienced my pain. He has experienced my struggles. I get that from your story. It's
Mm.
not just the business tactics and strategies that you share. No, those are well and good. They appeal to the intellectual mind, but your story appeals to the emotional side of people. And if I'm going to trust you, I must know your story because, as everybody says, we are now in a trust deficit because of AI. Suddenly,
True.
everybody's an expert.
Mm.
But the
Or appears
real
to be an expert.
experts,
Yeah.
yeah, but the real experts have stories backing up what it is that they're selling, what it is
Mm.
that the problem basically that their business is solving. If you don't have a story to back that up, it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, in today's world to sell your business and to really get clients long term. So it's very important that you bring in what my coach calls your hero story, which is basically everything that is related to your offer. Again, for people who are new, your offer is really the solution that you bring to the
Yes.
marketplace. As you said earlier, it's important to identify the problem that you're going to solve and go a little deeper, identify who has that problem. So, like you
Mm.
said, your ideal client, know who you are serving because you're not going to talk to the whole world. Otherwise, you're just shouting into a void.
Mm.
Who are you helping? Who is in need of what you serve? That's what puts you in the market of one. Because, like you
Mm.
said, your story sets you apart. You and I, for instance, we both teach purpose, but we teach it from two completely different perspectives and
Exactly.
directions because of our story.
Mm.
You have your story that has led you to teach each purpose the way you do, and you're able to help people as the way that you do. I teach it from a different perspective, and
Mm.
I'm more business inclined in helping people trans what's the word transform their purpose into profit because that's my
Yeah.
journey, that's my story. That is why it's important to not throw away your corporate experience, which I honestly think is lacking in the online market. I think people are so focused on, hey, look, like every online guru talks about this is the fastest way to make money today. This is the best way to make money today. And many people are flocking to such people, such influencers, and essentially wasting months and years of their lives chasing the money, which most of the time, as you and I have experienced, you never really get what it is that they
No,
promise, unfortunately.
no.
But if you could really find someone who is talking the language that you and I are talking today, that would save a lot of people time and money and spare them the frustration and the burnout that comes with chasing trends. Because you would then take your experience and your story and your gifts and have that unique blend that you offer the marketplace. And the people who relate to your story, they feel like, where have you been all my life?
Yeah.
And there is no business, in my opinion, that you can build that is far more fulfilling than that. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I agree. It's if the entrepreneurship journey doesn't appeal to you, then that's fine. I don't think it's for everybody because it does require a lot of commitment and some sacrifice as well, I would say. But it's such a powerful journey of growth. It really is. I haven't found a journey like it that's so because it brings up all your stuff constantly, all your limiting beliefs, all the self-doubt, imposter syndrome. It comes up. You know, you have a good month. Wow, everything's wonderful. I'm nailing it. Yeah, I'm a success. And then the next month, nothing happens. And it's like all the self-doubt comes up. So that's why I love it, because it brings up all this stuff for me to heal constantly. If you're in a corporate job and everything's very steady and comfortable, fantastic, if that's what appeals to you. But it's not really getting you out of your comfort zone. It's very safe and predictable. The monthly paycheck comes in every month. You know what's happening. You're not really pushing yourself because it doesn't really matter if you work extra hours. You're going to earn the same paycheck at the end of the month. So it's just this way of just, it's kind of like, I don't want to say going to sleep. That sounds a bit harsh, but it's certainly not like this path of entrepreneurship, which is like this. But you're going in an upward curve in terms of your growth, even though there's challenges all the way. Whereas the corporate journey is kind of like this, just steady and slow. So it depends what appeals to you, what is really appealing to you. But that entrepreneurship journey is so rewarding. The level of growth you go through, not only that, but your earning potential becomes uncapped. You can serve at scale, and the level of fulfillment you can receive for working in alignment with your values and your passions, and also earning money directly. Like it's not coming to you via someone else. You help someone, you serve somebody, they show faith in you, sign up with your program, you earn the money directly. It's a totally different feeling to when you're just earning that monthly paycheck, in my experience. When somebody has put their faith in you and you receive the money as a result, such a different way, a different approach to work, and then you have the incentive then to put in the extra hours because you're just enjoying it. I always say to people, if you're in line with purpose because the work you're doing energizes you rather than drains you. At the end of my a day in corporate, I felt drained. I really just wanted to sit on the sofa and just watch Netflix, for example. In this work I do now, it's like I'm inspired by doing this work, but we're doing a podcast with you or sitting with one of my clients, doing a coaching session. At the end of the day, I go for a walk, million ideas coming through for posts and content. That's how you're aligned, because work is energizing, and you're enjoying it so much more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What else was I going to say? So what I also like about it is you said about earning money. There's nothing wrong. Earning money is a beautiful thing. You can serve at scale, but you don't want to necessarily just be focusing on purely the money. And this is the thing, whenever I see coaches talking about making a promise around, 10K a month, I'll help you make 10K a month, or, I'll help you make a 7-figure business or whatever it is. I'm always a little bit wary of that, because there's no way you can actually 100% promise you'll deliver that. Everyone's journey is different. I'm sure it's the same with you, Malehasa. Someone comes into your program, you can't necessarily promise them a result, because it depends really on what comes up for them, the amount of commitment they put in, what they've got to work through. So there's no actual solid commitment you can make to someone. At the end of my 3-month program, you will have a 6-figure business. I can't promise that. Or you have your first client. It really is a journey. Okay, we're going to sit, we're going to open up, we're going to journal, we're going to feel through this stuff, and whatever comes up is right for you. And money is a beautiful consequence of working in line with purpose. yes, money's important when you're building a business. Of course it is. But if you're working in line with passion, you'll find that you attract it just because you're in that kind of energy, that vibration, really. And people are kind of responding to that. One thing I want to talk about is sales as well, because obviously you're an expert when it comes to business. This is something I've been working over the last year, and something a lot of people get stuck with, I find, is the selling part of it. What's been your own journey with sales? Has it become natural to you? Obviously, you're a very natural speaker yourself. And how do you help people overcome the kind of blocks they have around selling for their unique gifts, and making money from what they earn?
Okay. Um, I just want to, in answering this question of sales, refer a little to what you said about how overcoming, no, how building a business, entrepreneurship, you just have to overcome so many challenges along
Yeah.
the way that you could never foresee. And what that does for you is it raises your level of self-respect. Self-respect. You view yourself differently after you overcome. You
Mm.
have a lot more confidence in yourself than when you were just incorporate, and the only time you knew you did well was when your boss says, "Oh well, this is good. There's a good report, Mark."
Yeah.
you know.
Good
But
review. Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur and you encounter these challenges and you just see yourself winning, solving this one, tomorrow you get another one, gives you a big headache, but 2 or 3 weeks down the line you solve it, your self-esteem rises, your respect for yourself rises, and your value as a person, how you perceive yourself, that also changes. Now,
Mm.
how is this connected to sales? Many people struggle to sell, and now specifically talk about selling your skill and your gift. They struggle to sell that because they think, well, who would buy from me?
Mm.
Ouch. What a self-defeating thought that is. Because they think what they have is so ordinary that nobody would be willing to pay them thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars just for that. That's how they see that gift. They don't know, unless they have somebody guide them, just how valuable what they carry is. They
Mm.
don't know just how impactful it can be once they connect with a person who is desperate for that solution. So that on its own makes selling very difficult. If you don't believe in your offer, if you don't believe in your
Mm.
solution, if you were not 100% convinced that my ideal client needs this, it'll be very difficult to sell your offer,
Mm.
because you tend to think that that when they buy from you, they're doing you a favor. But when you know that what you offer is valuable, you see yourself as a solution provider and as a service provider. And you wear this cap, if I could put it that way, of someone who is here to serve. And a person who is here to serve understands that for service, there's a reward. If I do something good for you, I don't have to force you to say thank you. You'll automatically
Mm.
say, "Oh, thank you, Malehasa. That was very kind of you." That's really what business is. It's you delivering a solution, and the person who was so desperate for the solution because they had this aching problem which you helped them solve, they are more than happy to part with their heart and money because you gave them something that they could not find elsewhere. So when you understand that that pain is so painful that it weighs way more than the money that they give you, it
Mm.
changes your posture when you approach the selling process. You understand that I'm actually the one who is doing this person a favor. And that's another thing that I help my clients go deep into, to package your offer to the point where you feel it's irresistible for your ideal client. You make it so good that you, when you look at the finished product, you're like, wow, I wish I could buy this myself. You're like, this is really, really good. That way you have confidence to take it to the market. Like, whoever is going to buy this is going to transform their life. And whatever price I attach to this, I'm simply I'm doing them a favor to be selling it to them at this point, at this price, because it's priceless. I had a lady say that after she looked at my offer. She said, Malehasa, because I asked her, I was doing my market research and I asked her, so how much would you be willing to pay for a service like this? She said, let me tell you, what you do is priceless. I cannot put a price tag to it, but I'll just tell you what we're used to paying in the market for a service like this. But it's really priceless. So when you've developed your offer to the point where you feel this is priceless, selling becomes very easy. And when you work with an experienced coach in that area, then they can teach you all the tactics. Because if you're doing social selling, which is where you create content on social media and talk about your offer, there's how to do it. They can teach you the how. But once you have that settlement in you of what I offer is very valuable, sales comes easy. And another aspect I want to get into just a little bit when it comes to the marketing part is one that makes building a purpose-driven business different than building any other kind of business. It's that, like you said, when you're working with purpose, after you do the work, the task that you have to do, you are more energized. You're not drained. You're like, oh, God, I have to do this again tomorrow. And you have fresh ideas coming. So when you create content, if you're selling social media, when you're creating social media content, because this is something I see some of my clients struggle with in their non-purpose aligned businesses, it's very difficult to come up with content ideas.
Yes.
Once you come up with the idea, then how do I expand this idea into a whole post or a whole YouTube video? Because it there's nothing in them that connects to the idea. But when you build a purpose aligned business, I cannot explain it. There is that flood of ideas that just comes. You just, oh wow, I can connect this to that, and then I can talk about this. There was a time, I think in the past few months, when I literally wrote my LinkedIn post the very day that I was going to post it, sometimes even the very hour, because my day was just so busy. I have 4 children, so I'm always running. So sometimes I just didn't have time to sit and batch content. I would literally, in that hour that I'm going to post, I'd just sit down, find a quiet moment, sit down and come up with an idea and write it, and the post would be good. And I would not dare do that if I was not aligned with my purpose. Because when you're aligned with your purpose, what you talk about in your content is essentially your story. You have lived that experience. You just pull out of your story bank, out of your experience bank. So I have found that building a purpose aligned business is the easiest way, really, to it gives you a very easy business to market. You don't have to be creative. I don't have to sound like you, which is what I did back then when I was trying to do everything else. I was like, okay, this person says this, maybe I should try that, because there's no standard. When you're building a purpose-aligned business, you are the standard. Your story is the right story. Your experience is the right. You don't have to try and be anybody else. You don't have to do tons and tons of research before you come up with good content. You just have to be authentic and share your story and show that, hey, I don't just have the passion for this, I actually have the skill to back it up so I can help you. And you just reflect that in your story. So the people who come to you, they actually sold even before the sales call, if you're doing sales calls, because they have read your story, they've connected with your story, they have convinced themselves through your content that, hey, Malehasa is the right person for me. So that for me is an added advantage of building a purpose aligned business. You don't need to convince anybody. The
Mm.
right people are actually looking for you. Um, I had a mentor back then when I was doing network marketing who said, I'm looking for the people who are looking for me. And that's my mindset when I
All
approach
right.
business. I don't feel like I need to convince anybody to buy from me. I don't feel like my clients have to do that. The client that you have to convince, that's the client you're going to want to run away from tomorrow because
Right.
they're going to give you problems. But when
Yeah.
you have the mindset that I'm looking for the people who are looking for me, you know that the two of you will balance each other. They come with a problem, you come with a solution. And their payment to you is just thank you, like thank you. And you're happy to receive it. You don't feel like you've cheated them, you don't feel like you've forced them because you have genuinely given them the solution that they were desperate for. So sales becomes more of a natural part of the flow of business. You don't like have to think, oh, now I need to transition into the selling part of the business.
Yes.
No, it's part of the process naturally. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah. I
much
love that. This is what I've learned. I mean, I've had to learn a lot about sales in the last couple of years, but when I was exploring sales, it was all this kind of like, structure to the sales call. If they say this, say this. If they say this, and you have to kind of meet the objections and kind of like reframe things. And, it's a lot to remember. I like what you said there because I think a lot of the time, but when I was doing these kind of sales trainings, it was like, well, if someone is resistant and it's almost like kind of convince them or turning it around, which I get. But generally, I found if I was to do that with people and they were unsure, and then I kind of reframe things and they move forward, they actually didn't get the kind of transformation that the others were getting that came to be kind of pre-sold, like you were saying, who were just ready to go. If you're having to convince people in any way, then they're probably not the right person for your program. So instead of all these kind of sales tactics where you're kind of like trying to, meet their objections and flip them around and, convince them and whatever it is, it's kind of, you realize eventually that, okay, if someone is unsure, then they're not the right client, like whatever reason, they're probably not going to get the benefit that you're offering. And that's fine. The other part I like about your story in particular, if somebody's here now and they not have 100 limiting beliefs telling them, well, I haven't got the time to do, it's all right for them. I haven't got the time. I've got a family, or, it's all right for them. I've got a corporate career, or it's all right for them. They've got the money or the contacts. What I like about your story is you said there you've got 4 kids, but you've got a big family that you're also taking care of. You grew up in rural Africa. I mean, I don't know what the kind of financial situation, your own unique financial situation, but still you've built this successful purpose-led business. So anyone who's here now think, with their reasons for why they couldn't do this, look at Malehasa. Look what she's done, on her own journey. There's no, if you're called to this, there's no excuse really. It is a question of just, are you going to commit to it for as long as it takes, and not going, well, if this doesn't work in 6 months, then forget it. Or if this doesn't work for me in a year, it is literally the way I frame it, mindset wise, is just I'm committed to the journey as long as it takes. I don't care if it doesn't, if the results don't come immediately, or if they don't come after 1 year or 5 years. It's just literally you need to commit to the journey and realize that ultimately it's not necessarily about earning 6 figures or whatever it is, which is great. But I mean, that the journey really is about, okay, what is this bringing up within me? What do I get to heal and process along the way? It's the journey of growth. And if you can reframe the challenges as great, another opportunity to heal myself, another opportunity to grow, rather than attaching to, the business has to look a certain way. I have to hit a certain revenue target. I have to have expanded the team by this much. I have to have this many clients. Just forget about the kind of external metrics and just all followers. The other thing is like, if I'm not getting enough likes on this post, or I haven't got 1,000 followers by the end of the year, forget about all that stuff. Just make sure that you are aligned with purpose, and you just commit to the journey, because it's the growth actually that is the greatest reward on the journey, and the money will come eventually if you just commit to that continual refinement of that continual alignment within, and just sharing that as authentically as possible. It will come. The people will find you. So it needs to be just commit to as long as possible. There's so many more things we could talk about, which we'll have to do this again, but I know that you are building something or have built something yourself at the moment, Malehasa. Where would you like to guide people to? I know you're very active on LinkedIn. I know you're building this your unique program at the moment. So, where can people get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more?
Okay. Um, I'm very active on LinkedIn, and if you just search for Malehasa Moloi and follow me, then you'll find me. I just want to say that there are actually two Malehasa Molois on LinkedIn, and they're both
Is
me,
there?
which is ridiculous
That's not too bad then.
because I got locked out of my first LinkedIn account, and then I created another one.
Ah,
But if you actually look at the two profiles, it's very obvious which profile I'm active on.
yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make that
I've
disclaimer
got two as
so
well,
people
actually.
can get it.
I've probably got my old one in advertising on there somewhere, but I don't think it would.
Exactly,
It's pretty
exactly.
again. It's pretty clear
So
which is the one I'm using now.
exactly, it's very clear which one is
Yeah,
active. So Malahasa Mulay on LinkedIn, that's where you can find me.
perfect. I know you're
Yeah,
building out your own program as well, launching in the new year as well. So
absolutely. I'm very excited about it.
yeah, it can be a powerful 2026, I think. Well, just find it. Anything you'd like to leave people with, just as we come to the end of 2025, sticking into 2026, any little gems of wisdom before we head into the new year that come to mind?
Yeah, I had a story once, which is it was about. It's called the life is in the dash. That's what it called. Life is in the dash. And where it stems from is when you look at a tombstone, anyone's tombstone, you have the name of the person on top, you have the year they were born, and the year that they passed. And between the 2 years, there's a dash. And this person said, that dash is your life. What do you
Mm,
want it to represent? That stayed with me for life. When you are mindful of purpose, you are actually building a meaningful life that when you look at that dash of your life, you'll have no regrets. You'll know that I actually served the way I was called to serve. I gave what I was able to give. I didn't just focus on the material gains, which are really pointless when life here on earth comes to an end. But the impact and the transformation you've created in people's lives, that makes a very meaningful dash of your life. So I just want to say to your listeners, like, what you have, all you have is that dash. And it's very short. Many
mm,
of us don't realize just how short it is. We tend to think we have all this time. I'll focus on the
yeah.
meaningful stuff later. Let me just make money now. No, we don't have much time. And the last thing I want to say is a friend of mine once said to me, you have 1,000 destinies hanging around your neck. And I believe, not to put a weight on anybody's shoulders, but yeah, I believe it's true for everybody. You have 1,000 destinies hanging around your neck. You can decide right now that I'm going to rise up and be that person who will impact those thousands of destinies in my own unique way
Right.
with my gifts and the purpose that I have been given in life, or I'm going to let them down. So I want you to understand that when you don't commit to your purpose, you're not just letting yourself down. You're not just letting your family down. You are letting down thousands of people who only could have gotten a breakthrough if you had walked the journey and paid the price
Mm.
for success. And they are really waiting on you.
Mm. That's a powerful way to put it, isn't it? It gets you out of your own ego, your own kind of. We're all very self-centered a lot of the time, but if you realize that there's a lot of people waiting for you to step into the light so they can find you, and they won't receive the benefit unless you do. Yeah, that's not a guilt thing. That's not to make you feel like guilty for not doing that. It's like just
It's to
think
make you
about people
realize
waiting
just
for you.
how valuable you are as a person and
Mm,
how valuable the gift you have is. It's not just for you and your family.
mm.
There's people in the world that could really experience huge transformation
Mm.
if you just showed up.
Yeah, like I've always said, it doesn't mean you have to build up a massive business with a big team and, travel the world speaking. It can be just literally how much do you need, how much you really need to live a life of purpose. It's different for everybody, but it's you might only need, I don't know, 25 clients a year. Maybe that's it. That might be all you need to live a life that really feels aligned to you. It doesn't have to be like a 7-figure business or anything. It really is just, okay, what do I need to commit my life and my energy to this work that I feel called to? So taking the pressure off of creating a massive business or anything. Just, I'm always saying, like, what is get clear on your ideal future day? What is that for you? How do you want to serve? What do you need to live that life? That's it, really. You don't need to think about massive, multi 7-figure, 8-figure businesses if that doesn't feel right for you. Yes, I love that. What a beautiful finish to this podcast, and very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing your story, Malehasa. I love sharing following your content on LinkedIn as well. So anybody who wants to learn more about you, do check out Malehasa's profile there. And a great way to end the year. I think, people will be thinking, hopefully, more about purpose after that. And it doesn't have to be quite as daunting as I think a lot of people think. It really is just doing that inner work. Once you're clear on it, it's so much easier when you're aligned. It really is to build a business. The idea of being an entrepreneur can feel quite a daunting thing, but when you're aligned, honestly, it does it's much more easier than you might imagine. It flows a lot more easier when you're truly aligned with your passion in that way. But all right, then, let's leave it there for today. I'm sure we'll do this again next year at some point. But thank you so much for joining, Malehasa. And let's connect again in the new year at some point.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Mark. It's been a great pleasure and an honor. I am so glad to finish the year like this. And yeah, on to a much bigger 2026.
Indeed. Thank you all for watching.
Absolutely.
Have a great Christmas. And I'll see you on the other side, 2026. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Love you all.